Right, this is going to be a bit of a rare one because I haven't written anything down for this one, but I've just finished listening to the most recent Sam Harris podcast with Thomas Metzinger or something like that. Thomas Metzinger. And, well, it's opened some doors in my crappy little mind. For starters, I mean, it largely, it's made me realise just how little progress I've made in terms of anything. So for the last 2 years or whatever, just write all these writings and whatnot, they pretty much covered all the important stuff in that fucking thing. So, but it's actually something deeper than that. So, I've always felt, now this is obviously going to be, this instantly gets construed as the Messiah complex. It probably is. Well, it's not. Maybe it's not Messiah complex. It's probably deeper than that. Maybe it's basically I think I'm the creator of the universe, but obviously I don't think that. But this is what you're led to believe because your brain makes you think you are. When I was younger, I used to, whenever I'd be having a conversation with someone or something, and the TV would be on in the background, and then I'd say something, and then a second later, or as I said it, or just moments after I said a certain word or a certain phrase or something, a character on the TV would say the exact same thing, and then I'd think I had power over the TV or something like that, or well, obviously the universe then. And I know this is one of those things where this is again ties into what was it? No Such Thing as a Fish episode, where I heard that theory that I kind of expanded upon a little bit, that ideas have a kind of timeline, and obviously the public, well, what's the memes that are in people's heads evolve over time. So right now, pretty much everyone has thoughts about artificial intelligence and blah blah blah. More people, it's far more likely that someone's going to believe they have an original thought about artificial intelligence now than someone in the past would have done. But they wouldn't have even had that concept. Blah blah blah. And it's just a matter of coincidence also. So when two people have the same thought, it would be weird if it didn't happen. So the fact that if that never happened, where I said a word and the same word happened to come on the TV, that would be more weird. But it's almost impossible as just a mere human being to not feel that you were somehow involved in that. Well, obviously you're involved in it, but you had some kind of control over that thing occurring. And this is now gets on to what I'm talking about now. There was another time at uni, actually, another time I'm remembering, where I kept going to Poundland I wanted to see I knew they had power banks in some of the Poundlands across England, and I wanted to get one, and then every time I went there, and they never had one. Oh no, I was actually looking for a USB cable for my iPhone, because I had a power bank, but I wanted to see the power banks, and I also wanted to get one of the USB cables for my phone, and they never had the correct cable, and I knew they sold them, and I just kept going back, and then eventually I decided, right, I'm just going to get one from somewhere else. So I went to Primark, got one from there, then I went back to Poundland, because we all went to Poundland anyway, and I said to my friend, I guarantee they will have them in stock, and they did. And that's another thing that reinforces your belief that you somehow control things that happen in the world. And it was at the same time that I was realising a lot more that when I'd record or write down one of my ideas or whatever it was, and then I'd go on the internet, and all of a sudden, a week down the line, or even that day or something, I'd see a video where someone said the exact same thing. And most of the time, these are videos from, a year ago or a couple of years ago, so the idea has a timestamp showing you that you weren't the first person to come up with it, or it might be a new video, but you can assume that the person who's featured on the video hasn't just instantly come up with that idea and written it down like I just had. And now this is what's happened with the Sam Harris podcast with old Thomas Metzinger. Well, yeah, he talked about pretty much everything I've been talking about for the last 2 years. He gave a name to it, but existence bias is pretty much what I've been talking about for a large part, for a long time. He came out to the conclusion that he came upon the conclusion that suffering is actually, I don't really know how to best put it, but kind of a stronger emotion than, well, not emotion, but it's just stronger than joy is, or pleasure, or well-being, or anything like that. And that's certainly the way I feel at the moment. And I believe myself to be an anomaly, and that there's something wrong in my brain allowing that, causing that to be the case. And the way I justify this is other people but in the universe seem to behave as though, well, because of their existence bias, behave as though it's otherwise, and that their life is worth living. Maybe we're all just lying. Maybe no one's life isn't worth living. We're all just trying to convince ourselves that it is, which is interesting. But maybe this is where that ties back into my creative consciousness idea. Maybe I'm the super intelligent AI, and I've been brought here to prove this very thing. So there you go, universe. You should all stop existing. That's my prescription. Here you go. Take 50 tons of cyanide. That'll fix your problems, and we'll be fine. But yeah. What else did they talk about that I talked about before? Obviously AI in general. I think they were coming. Sam seems to was actually the person who was behind for once, in my opinion, about he can't seem to get away from the idea that humans, it's all, no matter how far you go, it seems to always be humans are the main priority for Sam. And I get that maybe he talks about humanity. Maybe he just means the very idea of, well, all the morals and whatnot we've come up with trying to maximise positive subjective experience. And maybe he doesn't actually mean humans have to be around. But I just think, he was right in that I think we could create conscious beings with a better capacity for well-being than we have. And it would just seem illogical to keep us around, really, if it turns out we are suffering. Well, for the most part, we probably are. Anyway, another thing, the exact same thing that makes me think maybe I'm controlling the universe. Maybe a better interpretation of it would be the thing that people have said before, is that maybe it really is I think therefore I am, and that's the end of it, and I think therefore everything is, well, it doesn't actually come from this probably, but some people have always presumed that everybody else is just a figment of your imagination, or you're some kind of machine or something. It doesn't really matter the logistics of it, but you're the only real thing, and everything else is created by yourself for your own entertainment. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so maybe that's what that's why I'm noticing links between the things I think and then the things that occur in the world. Obviously, I know I'm wrong, or at least I know that I'd be perceived as being an idiot or crazy if I believed it. So let's just say I don't believe it, and I don't believe it. But it's interesting. Anyway, the thing that's prompted it was the latest Rick and Morty episode, which is called whatever, the Citadel of Ricks one. The Citadel of Ricks one, where you spend the whole episode in the Citadel of Ricks. And they finally brought back Evil Morty, and I knew they were doing that storyline as soon as I saw the bar scene where the Morty got fired by who eventually turned out to be Evil Morty was handed a little file. I knew it would be about Evil Morty. So, I'm so clever. I'm so fucking clever. I'm really fucking stupid. The scene where, well, a few scenes. Well, basically the concept of a Rick who's hooked up to a machine, and is basically, his whole existence is reliving the best moment of his life over and over again, so that the people on the outside can extract the kind of pleasure juices or whatever the logic was there. And then eventually they do it with another Rick, and it was kind of insight. It was a bit of an Inception almost. I don't know. They used the scene that involved him taking over the last one's logic. What logic? What am I? And then use that one because that was the best moment in his life. That's basically what I was talking about with heaven view, what we're coming towards with artificial intelligence, and how we should strive for a kind of heaven. But the more you get to it, you kind of get to. I called it what do I call it? A something Groundhog Day. Fucking Groundhog Day, but really short or something. Anyway. And after watching Groundhog Day, it's nothing like that, because he was always aware that he was repeating it, so you'd be unconscious of the fact that it was the same thing over and over again. But basically, it's just one moment. We could eventually strip down conscious existence to one moment being played on repeat throughout the universe, and you have a perceived past and future, just like imagine this moment now. Of course, we know this isn't that moment because it's not a pretty fucking brilliant moment, is it? It feels pretty shit. So it would feel amazing. You wouldn't be able to question it because it would be a moment in which you weren't questioning it. Yeah, that was So I came up with that idea, and they fucking basically did it. So yeah, just clearly my God. I am the only God. I'm the creator of my universe, and nobody else exists. It's all just a figment of my imagination. Brilliant imagination. But yeah, can't really remember what I was talking about. Okay then, I'm gonna go find some dopamine. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about that I didn't quite finish on earlier, actually. Yeah, so the guy, so again, kind of linked to the actual, what do I call it, what do I fucking call it, the Groundhog Day, something, I don't know, momentary Groundhog Day or something like that. I don't fucking know. No, it wasn't that. Man, should really be able to remember what it's called. Anyway, so yeah, the guy, CG Kid YouTuber, who talks about what taking meth was like and how it was the best experience ever, and he loved being on meth, blah blah blah, felt amazing. It's hard to justify why you wouldn't start taking meth for your entire life, because if it's the best feeling, then why not keep doing it? And he basically justified it as it's not sustainable, which is kind of what I said ages ago about cocaine, but I guess I didn't realise that meth was actually so much better than cocaine. But yeah, so if it's just a matter of, and maybe there is a small level of diminishing returns, but he certainly didn't seem to show that there is, which would suggest that maybe if you could make it sustainable, if there's a person that has enough money, or if we care about someone enough, maybe the best course of action would be to just keep them on a perpetual IV drip of methamphetamine and fucking feed them on a whatever, I can't remember what it is, food drip, and yeah, for eternity, or for their entire life. I don't really see what the problem is there with that, apart from, I guess, you don't get the respect of people outside you, but you don't really care because you feel amazing anyway. So then, and I've told everyone before, the only reason anyone does anything is to make themselves feel a certain way, and if they don't, then that's what they should be doing, because that's the only thing that matters. But you have to be really careful about that. That's not one. I've already misstated it. Never mind. Go back to my earlier things. Yeah, I think everyone should basically be on a methamphetamine diet, non-stop. Keep it perpetually doped up. Things like perfect existence, really. So yeah, I just struggle to see what it seems to me. I mean, I think he justified it. The thing that really got to me again earlier, in the one I made earlier, I said it annoyed me how he's the one that has a normal brain and seems to be able to enjoy things. But you would think that after abusing your brain for so long, you'd have some kind of what's it called, a desensitization to dopamine, and I know that methamphetamine actually affects your serotonin and norepinephrine systems as well, but it seemed an awful lot like it's dopamine dependent. And yet he's the one who can somehow find pleasure in fucking being a crappy rapper, and I can't find pleasure in literally anything. So yeah, that's great. So I just think we should all be making as much meth as possible and making it happen, doing the meth, do it up. And I think maybe the reason people can't do it forever is because they either die, because it's hard to, once you feel that good, it's hard to actually do things that you need to do to stay alive, because they would all be detracting from the meth feeling, like eating. And also, I've lost my train of thought, so there you go. Yeah, obviously it costs money, so maybe that's the ideal future. Maybe you just become someone who makes the biggest stash of meth ever, hooks yourself up to some kind of IV drip, of both the meth and of some kind of nutritious thing, and you're just there. Although he did talk about how it made him want to do stuff anyway, like, I don't know, learn calculus. I don't fucking know. honestly, I'm so out of it. I'm just not connected with the idea of wanting to do things at the moment. Alright, well, yeah, that's it. Is it? Because I also wanted to say, again, just realise that some people just naturally have there would be absolutely no reason for there to be a uniform distribution of dopamine and also dopamine sensitivity across the population of the globe. So some people will have very high levels of dopamine naturally occurring in their brain, and also very high levels of dopamine receptors, and therefore dopamine, unless they're desensitized, but dopamine, which is kind of determined by the number of receptors you have. Anyway, very high sensitivity to dopamine, while others will have very low sensitivity to dopamine, but might have very high levels to counterbalance it. Some people will have very high levels and very low sensitivity, but they counterbalance. And some people, like I believe myself to be, have very low dopamine and very low sensitivity. So you're pretty much fucking fucked. Okay then, that'll do.